8 victims. 1 house.
They had all been slain.
Mirrors covered. Windows blocked.
Somebody covered the mirrors. Somebody covered the windows. Somebody covered the bodies.
Food left behind.
The killer prepared food.
And a mystery that refuses to die.
So today, Rich, we got a big show, a highly requested topic for the show. What are we covering today?
Yeah, we've had a lot of people ask about this, and we're going to be talking about the Villisca, Iowa Axe Murders.
So what is the Villisca, Iowa Axe Murders?
First of all, where is Villisca?
Right.
And some even might ask, where is Iowa?
Yeah.
So Iowa's in the Midwest, and this event happened in 1912, so about 114 years ago. And so where is Villisca in relationship to the Midwest and the rest of Iowa? Well, it's a small town. It was small in 1912, about 2,500. It's smaller now.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
This crime did not occur out in a farm area. It was in a downtown small community with houses next to houses.
Neighbors, coffee shops,
churches.
Exactly.
It was just a little small town, and suddenly became the talk of the country. First of all, do you know what a mnemonic is?
A mnemonic. It sounds like it's a belief, but I'm going to have to say,
well,
I don't know what a mnemonic is.
If we were to take the planets,
okay,
the 9 planets, including Pluto, poor Pluto, who's also often excluded, and we assigned a word to each of those first letters of those planets, like my very educated mother just served us 9 pizzas. That's a mnemonic.
Okay.
Using those to remember the order of the planets. So if we use a mnemonic to describe Villisca, Iowa, the one that I came up with is my wiggly iguana made nice sandwiches. And that tells you where Iowa is located, because it's in between Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Missouri, and Nebraska, and South Dakota. Those are the states that border Iowa. And the largest big city to Villisca would be Omaha, Nebraska. And Omaha and Council Bluffs. Council Bluffs is in Iowa, but on the other side of the Missouri River from Omaha. So that's about 55 miles away. So Villisca is located in the left lower corner of the state of Iowa, and about 55 miles from Omaha. And on a June morning, the neighbors noticed that the family who lived at where the event occurred, a guy by the name of Josiah Moore, people called him Joe, his wife, and 4 children, and 2 guest children also who stayed over the night. They had attended a get-together at the local Presbyterian church the night before, and the 2 other children, 2 sisters, were asked, would you like to stay over? And they stayed over at the Moore family house. And the following morning, there wasn't any activity. Somebody investigated it. The door was locked. They knocked at the door. There was no response. People didn't seem to be up. This seemed to be very, very unusual. Joe Moore wasn't up. Joe Moore had a business that he had in town, a very successful business. And that comes into part of the story. He was the John Deere dealership for that part of Iowa.
Sure.
And being a farming area, there was a lot of equipment that was being bought. And John Deere was one of the prominent manufacturers then, as they are now. And Josiah Moore was the owner of this very, very successful firm. So that's the setting of where it was. And now let's talk about what happened.
So I guess we'll just kind of break down who was in the house and what was going on, and then we'll go into the night that it happened.
Right. Well, starting with the fact that they attended this church function the night before, their four children, the Moore children, and they included Herman, age 11, Catherine, age 10, Arthur, who was 7, and Paul, who was then 5. They returned home from this church event at the Presbyterian Church, and this was on June 9th in 1912. They invited the Stillinger sisters, and they were two sisters who lived on a farm quite a ways from downtown Villisca, and they were asked to stay over with the Moore family, children. And there was Ina May, and she was 8 years old. And then there was Lena, and she was 12 years old. So there were 6 children staying at the home that evening, and the mother and father, Mr. and Mrs. Moore. And the following morning, it was discovered that they had all been slain.
Yes, in their beds.
In their beds. And Mr. and Mrs. Moore were in their bedroom. The Moore children were upstairs in their bedroom. And the 2 sisters, Ina and Lena, were in a separate bedroom on the first floor. And they had all been murdered in a similar fashion. And it is suspected, because they found a weapon there that they attributed to be the murder weapon, was an axe. And these people were hit with the blunt side of the axe, not the blade side of the axe. And they were all murdered similarly.
So the process, I guess the order of murders, it started with the parents and then went down to the children.
It went to the parents. They were murdered first. And then the 4 more children who were staying in one bedroom upstairs. And then the killer came downstairs and murdered the 2 visiting sisters who were sleeping together in a bedroom downstairs.
Okay. And I had heard that when the the Mr. and Mrs. murder had occurred, that there was some form of an axe imprint in the ceiling.
Yes, and they supposed that that was caused by the fact that these deaths occurred by someone using the blunt side of an axe. Now, an axe is an implement normally used for chopping wood, has a handle somewhere between 2.5 and 3 feet long. So if you were to raise that over your head and you were to raise it high enough, the blade end, the sharp end, would put or penetrate the ceiling. And that's in many of the rooms, there were penetration marks in the ceiling from the sharp end of the axe before the axe was delivered to the victim on the blunt side of the axe, the heavy side of the axe.
Now, am I reading it correctly that would be like a super aggressive type, I guess, attitude?
I guess it would be aggressive, but
like he's like hitting with so much anger.
Well, an axe is an axe, and people normally use an axe in an aggressive manner.
Yeah.
And that's just a normal thing. Unlike a hatchet, which is more centrally located. It's simply because the blade and the implement, the head of the implement, are not that large as compared to an axe, and the handle's much shorter.
Right.
So, yes, it would be more of an aggressive move because you're raising it up over your head to get a full swing.
Sure.
And consequently, the victims were mutilated, all of them in the head.
So they were all hit with the blunt side of this
Yes.
axe.
First, the mother and father, and then the 4 more children. And in the packet that I sent you, I've sent you pictures of those. And those pictures are interesting because they show that the Moore family was rather, they must have been a family of means, because the pictures show that they're formal pictures taken by a photographer. They're
Yes.
not taken with a little brownie box camera. They were taking the picture of Joe and his wife Sarah Moore were portraits that were taken. And I have sent you that file, and those pictures are professionally done. And at the time of their death, Joe was 43 years old and Sarah was 39 years old. And I've already given you the ages of the children: 11, 10, 7, and 5 for the Moore children, and 12 and 8 for the Stillinger children. And yes, there were marks left on the walls as well as the ceiling. And then it starts to get strange.
Yeah, everything going on downstairs within the house. What happened within the house that was kind of culty? It kind of resembles a cult-like belief. What happened?
Well, the killer, almost as if it was a ritual, covered all of the mirrors in the Moore home. Also blocked the windows so people could not see in, either with coverings or sheets or clothing or something like that. The victims were covered. At least their wounds were covered. So it was very, very strange. It almost had cult type implications. It wasn't like it was something that was done for the purpose of just killing. There was something more to this than just a massacre.
Sure.
There seemed to be other things going on. The killer prepared food for himself
After.
Yep. May have consumed some, but had a plate of food. Left the alleged murder weapon there. They found an axe there. They attributed the axe to belonging to Mr. Moore. So the person who did this did not bring the weapon with them. And strange, including that, and even more strange, was the fact that next to the axe there was a slab of bacon.
Yeah, it came out the icebox.
Yes.
It was weird.
A large slab of bacon. And I don't know if that's a clue or an accident or something like that, or the killer left it there intentionally or left it there meaning to take it with him. When people got there and tried to raise the Moore family, they tried the door was locked.
Yeah.
From the inside. So now you wonder what's going on. You're knocking at the door, nobody's responding. This was a neighbor. The neighbor went and contacted Mr. Moore's brother, who worked at a local pharmacy, drugstore. He came and went in the house and came out and said that everyone is gone.
Yeah, he had agreed that the fact that there were no kids playing in the yard was odd for the time of day that it was. I think it was late morning, early afternoon, and they were like, well, the kids should be out and the windows should be done, and I don't know why there's these sheets on the windows.
Right.
So
Just looks strange to people.
Yeah, it's different. Let's go inside and check this out.
And this was in a neighborhood. This wasn't a farmhouse way out in the out in the field somewhere. No, this was in a neighborhood in the downtown community, one street over from Main Street, from the main street of Villisca. And so it was a strange scene. And the brother tells people, and the next thing you know, people start arriving.
Yeah.
And not only did they arrive to look in the windows, they arrived and went inside.
Yeah, so from what I had heard, the police were like, hey, you guys can't be in here, get out. So they removed everybody from the house. And then as soon as the police left, all the people, 100 people decided that they wanted to investigate the crime themselves.
Well, you got to figure the police department in Villisca was a little bit, it was a small town, it's 2,500 people.
Yeah.
And not a lot of crime. So they really weren't used to doing with this. A lot of major crimes in the state were either covered by local sheriff's office, county, and something like that. It took time for those people to arrive. Neighbors entered the house before law enforcement arrived. Because the house was close town and close to neighbors, people flocked to the site. Townspeople, officials, curiosity seekers walked through all the rooms. Bloodstains were touched. Items were moved. People handled the axe. Critical evidence was destroyed. And forensics at that time was in its infancy, but later analysis was nearly impossible because the crime scene was so contaminated.
I had even heard that someone went in there and took a piece of one of the skulls.
That's rumored that a piece of Mr. Moore's skull was taken.
Don't go looking that up. But don't go searching for that. But yeah.
The town had limited policing infrastructure. So there were no trained homicide detectives in the community. There were no forensic standards. And towns, when something happened, they relied on county sheriffs and volunteers. So the result was that there was no coordination, no professionalism in the investigation. Next thing that happened, media frenzy. The vultures started circling Villisca, Iowa. Reporters flooded the place. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
The funeral was an event. 8 horse-drawn hearses with 8 caskets. They said over 50 vehicles in the procession. All kinds of family members from 2 families.
Right.
And Joe Moore came from a large family. And
so this was a big deal. Business owner, 2 families, multiple people. This was a huge deal.
It was a sensation.
Yeah.
So as days went on, testimony became unreliable, confessions were tainted, and it just got to be a circus. And we talked about the circus involved with the Lizzie Borden affair.
Yes.
And we compared a little bit, you compared a little bit between the two, and Lizzie's investigation was much more structured. First, they had an inquiry, because in Massachusetts we have an inquiry. Did a crime occur? And that happened within a week of the Borden tragedy. and then a preliminary hearing at the end of August, about 3 weeks after the initial murders. That was held, and later a grand jury, and finally a trial. This didn't happen this way out in Iowa. Nobody was arrested initially. Everybody was questioned. Strangers, people passing by, all of these people were suspect. And then after they got through looking at the outside world, they started looking at each other. And is there anything that could point to anybody in our community that could have been responsible? And there was. And it goes back to what Joe Moore did before he started his own John Deere dealership.
What was that? What did
He
do?
worked for someone else in the same type of business, hardware and farm equipment. And he worked for this gentleman for approximately 9 years, and learned the ropes and learned all about farming equipment, things like that, and decided he wanted to go out on his own and have his own business. This upset his former employer, and I sent you in the file a copy of the former employer's
Yes.
picture. And give me a minute.
It was Josiah Moore, or no?
Yeah, Josiah Moore, but his former boss was again a gentleman by the name of Frank Jones. And he owned the hardware and agricultural supply store, and he was also a politician.
Right.
And when Joe Moore decided to set up his own business, Mr. Jones was upset. There's also a rumor that Joe Moore might have been having an affair with Mr. Jones's daughter-in-law. That's rumored. We don't know if that's true or not. Stories get cooked up, and they were cooking up stories on this particular story, on this particular event that happened. People are looking for a reason. Why could this have happened? Well, the theory is maybe Jones and Moore, they had such a falling out. And, of course, to make matters worse, where did Joe Moore put his business? Right across the street from Mr. Jones. And he got the franchise for John Deere, which Mr. Jones formerly had, and made a successful dealership out of it. And there was hard feelings. They did not speak. They did not speak for years. It was said that if they were coming down the sidewalk, they would go to opposite sides of the street just so they didn't have to walk by each other.
That just seems like a just like a, not like a rivalry, but like something similar to
like
it.
a petty argument.
Yeah, it just.
However, after there was 8 murders, people said, well, maybe Jonesy could have been responsible for it. Not that he could have done it, because he was a bit older.
Right.
But did he hire somebody to do this?
Is there evidence showing?
Well, there was rumor.
Rumor.
There was an arrest made.
On who?
There were 2 arrests made, and one was on a possible hitman, a guy with the nickname of Blackie Mansfield,
Yes.
who it's alleged that he may have been hired by Mr. Jones. There's nothing that can show that. However, that was the rumors, and the rumors spread and did not do Mr. Jones. It didn't do good things to his reputation as far as a politician is concerned. I think he had aspirations for higher office. He was a state senator, and not from the state of Iowa, but a local senator within Iowa. And this kind of derailed his whole political aspirations. Now, you may ask, Rich, where did you get this information? And how did you put together a conclusion on who the possible suspects were? And the answer to that is, I really didn't, because this happened 114 years ago, and the evidence is gone, the stories are out there, the books are out there. People have written books about numerous suspects that are possibly good. This one called The Train Man. There are others that possibly could, and with the lack of evidence, it's hard to prove or disprove at this particular time who may or may not have been involved. So you and I often work, and we've talked about this before, artificial intelligence programs. So I contacted 3 artificial intelligence programs. I won't give the names, but and I asked them the same question. Who would you think are the top 3 suspects for the Villisca, Iowa murders in 1912? And interestingly enough, they came back, and all 3 picked the same person as their number 1 candidate. And the number 1 candidate was a number 1 suspect was a Reverend, a man of the cloth, George J. Kelly. And he was a traveling minister, evangelistic type. He was in Villisca on the night of the murders. He was described as being peculiar, reporting having a mental breakdown when he was an adolescent. As an adult, he was accused of peeping. That would be, I guess, a peeping George, not a peeping Tom.
Ha.
And several times he asked young women and girls to pose nude. And on June 8th, this is 1912, he came to Villisca to teach the Children's Day services. This is the services that the Moore family and the Salinger sisters attended on June 9th. He left town abruptly the afternoon after the murders were discovered. And he left before the murders were discovered. And in the weeks following, he had kind of a fascination with the case. He wrote many letters to the police, investigators. He wrote letters to the families of the deceased. This aroused suspicion.
Sure.
And a private investigator wrote back to Kelly asking for details, see if the minister might know anything about what happened that night. And he replied back in detail that he may have possibly witnessed the murders. The fact that he was known for his mental illnesses made authorities question whether he knew anything about it at all, or whether he was making it up or imagining it. So in 1914, this is 2 years after the tragedy at Villisca, he was arrested for sending obscene materials through the mail.
What was he sending?
It did not say.
Oh, okay.
I'm guessing that obscene materials in 1912 is much different than obscene materials in 2026.
I immediately thought like weaponry or like any form of like narcotic.
No, this was.
What would you suspect the obscene materials?
It was sexual in nature.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. I got you.
Either photographic
Material.
or drawing or something like that.
Sure.
He was sent to St. Elizabeth's Hospital, which is a mental hospital in Washington, D.C., for a bit of a tune-up. And investigators at that time speculated that he might be the murderer of the Moore family. So in 1917, he was arrested. And that kind of put the spotlight on him, and he was arrested for the Villisca murders. Police obtained a confession. He confessed to the murders. However, he later recanted. So he was tried, and there was a mistrial. And he was tried again, and he was acquitted. Now, he was not tried until 5 years after the event. So a lot of things got very cloudy in those 5 years as far as preservation of evidence and things like that. So he was not the first person arrested in the Villisca case. A year before, in 1916, a guy by the name of William Blackie Mansfield, and I sent you a picture of Blackie.
Yes.
He was suspected of being a serial killer, and when this occurred, it was also wondered if he was responsible for this set of murders. He denied any connection to the murders. He was suspected as a possible hitman. He was arrested in 2016. A Detective Wilkinson for the Burns Detective Agency. Interesting side note here. My grandparents had a house down on Union Street in Rockland, and there was a garage out back. And I can remember this as a child. There was a back door on the garage, and on the back door of the garage, and I wish I had kept this, there was a porcelain sign that said, "Protected by the Burns Detective Agency," on my grandfather's garage.
That's
there was
cool.
nothing inside, but he had tacked this on the back door. And it was a porcelain sign. And so this is the same detective agency
Wow.
that investigated the murders of the Moore family, and the potential hitman, Blackie Mansfield, was arrested because he was responsible for some other murders by axe, namely his wife, his infant child, his in-laws, mother and father. And this was back in Blue Island, Illinois. And that was in 1914, 2 years after the Moore family tragedy. So as a result, he was a suspect in that murder. He was a suspect in a case in Kansas 4 days before the Villisca murders. And so he was a prime candidate. However, they didn't have the facts. And although there were some similarities, he also got pinned on an axe murder in Aurora, Colorado. And the detective from Burns, Wilkinson, said that the murders were part of a string likely done by the same person, same similarities, and each murders were hacked to death with the blunt of an axe. The murders and bodies were covered with cloth. Notably, a lamp with a chimney off was left at each scene. And at that time, Wilkinson was doing time at Leavenworth, Kansas.
You know, there's something in that we didn't go over. I can briefly run over it.
Sure.
The murderer of this crime, or whoever did the murders, when they went into the household, they took the axe from outside, or wherever the axe was stored. They brought that in, and they crept in the house as everyone was either awake or sleeping. And people suspect that he grabbed a lamp, an oil lamp. This is pre-electric.
Mm-hmm.
Turned the wick all the way down so that it burns very, very low. And really, if you were to hold the axe out, just illuminates just as far as to get to the head of the axe.
Right.
And navigated to a safe point within the house. Many suspect it to be the attic, where he listened and watched through cracks in the wall or little knots cut out through, because, everything's wooden back then, looking through the walls and whatever until everybody went to sleep. Once everybody went to sleep, he went to work on the family. And that's what people suspect was the theory that we sort of didn't really go over the going into the house, but it's interesting that in his previous crimes, the oil lamp was I guess the chimney of the glass chimney of the oil lamp was taken off, which is something that you need to do a little bit to ignite the flame in the oil lamp, which is interesting.
Well, and that could have been done intentionally because that's what the suspect did. That might have just been the way to do things back then, because you got to remember the chimney of an oil lamp is fragile.
Yes.
And you don't want to bump it around, and it makes a ring if you bump it into somebody, or something. So if you had just removed that, now you could dial it down to just being a flicker, so it gives off just a little bit of light, and it's easier to carry without the chimney on it. You also got to realize that many of these crimes after the Iowa murders, they appear to be similar because there was so much press about the Villisca murders.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to commit a murder and say, well, I'll make it look similar to the previous murder, you didn't have to go very far to find out what was done in the previous murder, because it was in all the papers. Somebody covered the mirrors. Somebody covered the windows. Somebody covered the bodies. Somebody took the chimney off the lamp. Somebody left the axe there. Somebody prepared a meal. So what may appear to be the same person might be different people doing what they read in the newspapers, because you got to realize back then that was the social media of the day. The newspaper was the social media, and this was a big case. This was not a local Iowa case. This was a nationwide case because 8 people had been slain.
They talk a lot about the railroad killer,
Yes.
someone that traveled the railways,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it was something like 30 plus trains went into Villisca every day, giving the perpetrator up to 5.5 hours to escape based off the train schedules and predicted time of the murders. Just a prediction made based off that information. What do you think is more possible, or what do you think is more likely? Using Occam's razor, what requires the least amount of assumptions? That there was a railroad killer that happened to commit the Villisca Axe Murders, and also committed the outside murders. So it was one person traveling the railways committing these murders, or it was people getting influenced through news and media committing similar murders. If you had to make an assessment of that using Occam's razor, what would it be?
I don't think there's evidence to show that one person or maybe 2 were committing these crimes and then traveling by rail. That would be today like saying, well, there's connection between site A and site B, crime scene A and crime scene B. There's got to be a connection because there's a road from A to B.
To me, it's kind of like people who compare like the Zodiac and the Black Dahlia.
Right.
Like, I just personally, I don't see it, but I'm not an expert in either cases.
Yeah, but I don't see that. I could see how people could develop that, and
Yeah.
you could develop that theory that it was somebody following the rail, riding the rails, because the rails went everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Because in 1912, the rail was the thing that connected communities, not highways, not interstates. The rail was the way to go,
It was the most efficient way of transportation.
and quickest.
Yes, and quickest.
And quickest to get out of town. Now, when the Lizzie Borden murders occurred, and it was discovered by when the first police officer arrived at the Borden house, and it was approximately 11:25 a.m. He ran back to the police station and told the chief of police, a guy by the name of Hilliard. First thing he did is he rang up the phone and called the auxiliary police station in the north part of Fall River and said, go to the train station, see if you see anybody leaving town, anybody headed towards Providence, anybody headed towards Boston, because that would have been the easiest way to get out of town at that time. So in 1912, which is only 20 years ahead of when the Borden murders occurred, still the easiest way out of town without being noticed was by train.
Yeah, train, trolley.
Yes, but in rural Iowa, it was by train.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So
So back to the Reverend.
Right.
He had a confession that a lot of people will pin him down on, but it was thrown out in court due to police brutality.
well, coercion.
Coercion. Okay. I heard police brutality.
All right. Well,
in the
those two terms could go together.
Yeah. What I immediately heard was like, when I think police brutality, I'm thinking they beat him with sticks.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Okay, so let's
coercion,
look at the breakdown of his confession.
sure, yeah. Let's
Now,
do
the
it.
confession was made in 1916, 4 years after the event. Okay, so these are not. We're going to paraphrase this rather than do it in verbatim. Statement number one. This is the Reverend George Kelly speaking. I was in Villisca the night of the murders. His own words, in quotes, his own words. Why does that matter? Well, it placed him at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Also, independent records confirm what he said, that he was there at that time. People saw him. He was at this event at the Presbyterian Church.
I just got to pause real quick. I just took a sip of that coffee.
Yeah.
I immediately thought it was like a whiskey. When I
Really?
drank it, I was like, whew. It hit my nose like a whiskey does.
Is it strong?
Oh, it's strong, all right.
I'll have a sip.
Yeah, it was pretty good. God, I took a sip of that. That thing just went like, you know how like when you take a shot of like a shot or a sip
No, I
of,
don't.
of
but
whiskey,
I'll take your word for it.
it kind of goes directly to like your nose, sort of in a way. Like I kind of got that sensation. I was like, did I grab the wrong cup here? Because I was drinking Jack and or 7-Up and bourbon last night. My DB Cooper fans will know that. But anyways, I digress. Back to the confession.
Okay. Now, what is the problems with that statement that he was in Villisca the night of the murders? Well, just because he was there doesn't mean he did it.
Right.
Okay? And many people pass through Villisca. The train goes through there. Okay, statement number two. Again, Reverend Kelly's words. I entered the Moore house while they were asleep. Why does that matter? Well, it correctly described that all victims were asleep. And it matches the known timeline. Late night, early morning. What's the problem with this? Well, this was reported widely in the newspapers everywhere, local, nationwide. So, and remember, we're 4 years between when he gives this confession and when the event happened.
Right.
So he had 4 years to gather the facts. So, next statement. I used an axe from the house. Why does that matter? Well, the murder weapon was concluded to be Joe Moore's axe, not one brought in by someone else. And this was a key investigative detail. And again, what's the problem with that? Well, it was kind of public knowledge by 1916.
Yeah, say he was having some mental health issues,
Right.
and false confessed to the murder. We see that all the time. I mean, how many people confess to the slaying of the Black Dahlia?
Eli Frankel told us there were numerous people.
Oh yeah, dozens of people that called in and
Right.
said, "Hi, I did this,"
Yeah.
but in reality they didn't. So it's like, is this another instance where this is happening, or is this the truth?
Right. Statement number 4, I struck the parents first. Why does that matter? Because investigators believe that the killer struck Joe and Sarah Moore first and then went after the children. This sequence fits the blood evidence and the body positions. Again, what's the problem with that? We've got 4 years difference between the actual crime and when he admitted it. And it was in local, by that time it had already been printed in a book. Statement number 5, I went upstairs and killed the children. Why does this matter? Well, it correctly identifies the fact that he knew that it was a 2-story, at least a 2-level structure.
Yeah.
And would everybody know that? I don't know. And he kind of showed awareness of the layout of the home. And what's the problem with that? Well, the layout had been printed in the newspapers with photographs.
Wow.
Number 6, the 2 girls were sleeping in a separate room. That's really an important clue, because we knew that they were sleeping downstairs, the 2 sisters. Why does that matter? Well, the Stillinger sisters were not the Moore children, and they slept elsewhere. This is a very specific detail. And what's the problem with that? Again, that was kind of known nationwide within days of the murder. Next statement, I covered the mirrors and windows. And why does that matter? Because this is one of the strangest and most distinctive crime scene details. And it suggested some type of ritualistic or compulsive behavior. And this detail was not initially emphasized early on. This is important because many people look at this and say this is one of the strongest points in pointing to Reverend Kelly, because this was something that was not out in the papers initially. Number 8, I washed myself and left food near the axe. A bowl of water and food, bacon, that were found near the axe. This behavior suggested a calm, methodical killer. There was some inconsistencies with his description, which were kind of vague. But you got to realize that 4 years had transpired between when the crimes were occurred and when he's telling the police. I locked the house and I left town. Why does this matter? Because the house was found locked up. The killer exited through either an unlocked door or through a window or something like that. And why is this a problem? Because his explanation kind of varied from time to time as they asked him more and more. So, as I mentioned to you, my AI sources, all 3 of them picked Reverend Kelly as their most obvious suspect. And what supports that is the correct general timeline, accurate crime scene behaviors, a psychological profile, opportunity, suspicious behavior. Now, those are the pros to prove his guilt. The cons to prove his innocence would be there was no real physical evidence. Well, we didn't do fingerprints much back then as we do now. We didn't have DNA. The details were largely known by the public by the time he confessed in 2016. There were some inconsistencies in his questions and in his answers, but that may have something to do with the fact that 4 years also transpired between when he was arrested. His mental instability weakened his confession. The fact that he was crazy may have helped him get his acquittal. And the fact that he was also a quote-unquote man of the cloth also may have contributed to his acquittal. And the fact that he recanted his confession, as many have, it's been done before. So those are the reasons why my AI programs came up with the Reverend George Kelly as being the top suspect, as he was back then and as he is now, in the crime that occurred between June 9th and June 10th in 1912, and where the victims, 8 of them, were viciously slain, all in the same manner, using the blunt end of an axe. So he was arrested in January of 1916. He confessed in March of 1916. Between 1912 and 1915, the case was a cold case. Rumors abounded everywhere. Who was George Kelly? He was a traveling minister. He was in Villisca at the time of the murders. He confessed and later recanted. There's no physical evidence that linked him to the crime, and the jury found his confession unreliable. The major theories are he committed the crime, Kelly, an unknown traveling killer, the railroad man or others, and the local business or personal motive and that's the least supported by evidence, but that one gained the most traction. And I sent you a picture of Senator Jones, and who was a strong suspect based on the fact that him and Joe Moore were former employer-employee relationship. And when Joe Moore decided to go on his own, Mr. Jones took it personal, and there was hard feelings between the two of them up until the time that Joe Moore was slain. So those are our suspects, and I have to conclude that my personal theory would be that it was probably Reverend Kelly. He had some serious mental situations, and if he was probably tried under today's conditions where we could possibly have DNA and things like that, he might be found not guilty by reason of insanity. He passed away, went back to the New York City area, passed away in a home for mental patients, and he always had some mental instability.
To quote a YouTube channel I was watching on this case a few days ago, it's okay to talk to God, but it's not okay if God talks to you.
No.
You might want to check that.
Yes.
So something else that we didn't cover about this case, it's a smaller detail, but it's a little bit important. But from what I found, it doesn't really lead anywhere. It's just more info to have. Mrs. Jones was found with her underwear removed leading people to believe that there may have been some form of sexual assault post murders.
That's a possibility.
They were, from what I understand and from what I saw, they were like removed and like placed elsewhere. They didn't disappear. They were taken off.
Yeah.
So, but there was no evidence of sexual assault found on her. Like, I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know how they test for that, but I'm sure they can.
Forensics were in their infancy back then, but they were able to do tests like that. They were able to do semen tests and things like that. And we know from the Borden murders that one of the things that was suggested in the Borden murders was, these people might have been poisoned first and then were hacked with a hatchet to make it look like they were murdered that way. And in 1892, we were able to, in the initial autopsy, which is done the day of the murders, remove the stomachs, put them in sealed jars, put them on a train with a courier, send them into Boston to Harvard, and they were examined the contents. Not only could they tell what the people had at their last meal, which would have been breakfast, but they could also tell which person was deceased first by the amount of digestion. And this is 1892. So there were forensics, but of course not to the degree they have today. But one statement that I garnered out of all of this about the Villisca case, and this goes along with many of the cases that we've talked about, and this is a quote: "The Villisca Axe Murders show that once evidence is lost, even the most shocking crime may never be solved." And we've talked about this forever. Almost every one of our cases, there's an evidentiary situation that hindered the solving of the crime, whether it be D.B. Cooper and the lost cigarette butts, whether it be the Gardner Museum and things that were taken. And all of this evidence is most important. And with the case of the Iowa murders, you had people coming and going like it was a ride at Disneyland.
Yeah.
In and out of the house.
Like a coffee shop, but yeah.
Yes, in and out.
Literally.
And the best advice to anybody, if there's a crime scene, you don't want to be in it.
No, because it might put you...
Your DNA may put you there.
You don't want to be there.
And you don't want to do that because in this day and age, DNA is one of the strongest reasons and the strongest things that can convict people and exonerate people. More importantly, exonerate people. People have been released from jail 30 years into their sentence for a crime they did not commit when DNA matched the crime to somebody else. So it's unfortunate that we did not have it in this case, and that happens a lot. I don't think we're going to come to any conclusion. I think the evidence points to Reverend Kelly. Certainly AI points to Reverend Kelly. There's some recent books that have been written that have other theories, and they're just that. They're theories. And so much time has occurred between when the murders happened and now that it's hard to make an evidentiary connection between the two. Theories, fine. You can draw a map and put roads on the map and put railroads on the map and say these are connected, so this must have happened there. And we're using the map to make the connection. However, maps don't make connections. Evidence does.
Right.
Physical evidence does. And there seems to be physical evidence which Reverend Kelly has described, which puts him at the scene, and other suspects that they have had, and they had several other suspects right after right after the murders occurred. But these people had legitimate alibis, and people could put them, in some cases, hundreds of miles away.
Yeah.
So they
case of
quickly
Senator.
discounted those. And although they said that there were a lot of potential suspects, they quickly dismissed a lot of those simply because they weren't in the area.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting case, and I hope that the people who have asked for this will get them a little bit of information about this and when it happened and how it happened and what the details were behind it. We got some other interesting cases cooking.
Yeah, we have a lot in the pipeline, but we can get to that. I just had one question. How do you feel about the house being open for paranormal investigation?
Interesting. Interesting you should say that. Interesting that you earlier made the connection between the Lizzie Borden.
That was going to be another question.
Right.
Do you see any similarities? Like on the cover, before you open the book, they seem very similar. Axe murders, people slain in their, laying down or in a bedroom,
Right.
stuff like that. So it seems very similar. So a follow-up question was going to be, do you see similarities and differences between the two cases?
I see more differences than I do similarities.
Okay. So let's start with the
the
paranormal
housing,
house.
with the housing situation.
Yeah, we'll start with the house and then we'll go into Lizzie. And I thought I saw somewhere that they're owned by the same company.
Well, they're controlled by the same company, a company that is called U.S. Ghost Adventures. And my understanding is that they acquired the Lizzie Borden house back about 4 years ago, and for $2 million.
Wow.
And they control that, and on their website you'll find the Lizzie Borden house and the Villisca Axe Murder house, and you can stay and tour both of those places as well as a few others. They have another home in Gettysburg which has paranormal activity, and you can stay there. And so this particular outfit, U.S. Ghost Adventures, has ghost tours all over the United States. You pick a town and they have a ghost tour, whether it be Providence or Provincetown or Plymouth, and you can go on one of their tours. And that is an interesting part. And that is a similarity between the Lizzie Borden house and the Villisca house.
It's funny. I had heard that when the house sold at some point in like the mid 1900s, early 1900s, that the person who bought it didn't really know that, and this is a theory, I believe. I'm not sure if this is exact.
Is this the Borden house or the?
No, I'm sorry. I'm talking about the Villisca house.
Yeah.
Had purchased the house, but was either unaware at first or became aware at some point that there was these strange murders that happened in the house, and they got it for a bargain. Some dude who didn't believe in the ghosts or whatever,
Right.
Purchased it for a short price, and had the idea of turning it into a Victorian era museum, a museum to showcase what housing looked like in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and then slowly it turned into the Villisca Axe Murder house. I'm not sure how much meat is on that, but that is something that I did discover throughout my research.
Well, paranormal is a big deal in the U.S., especially over the last 15 years.
Yeah, especially in the Northeast. This area has so much history dating back to when England came over and stuff like that.
Well, we've been here so long.
Oh yeah,
I've been here most of the time.
I haven't.
We talked to our friend Matt Warner, and he talks often about the Bridgewater Triangle, and here we are sitting in it today.
Sitting in it right
part
now,
of it.
yep.
And so a lot of strange stories develop, and in north of Boston you have strange stories associated with Salem, and that seems to be part of the fabric of the history of our country, and it happens in Europe as well. So to answer your question, yes, those two properties are connected, and the other properties as well. and they do concentrate on paranormal activity in both of them. And that's sort of an interesting situation in itself. How what we're doing is crime related, and these two places have a strong paranormal connection
or history,
right.
or whatever.
That's part of their business model.
Sure. Yeah. So the Villisca Axe house is something I'd like to tour, as like, not because I believe in ghosts, but because I want to see history. I want to check out the building. Same with the Lizzie house too. Like, I'm not a big believer in ghosts, just because I feel like it kind of like, I might go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I feel like it takes away from like your power as a person. And what I mean by that is, like, if I am laying down at night and I hear something like fall over or something like that in the kitchen or whatever, or a thump or whatever, if I go, oh, that's literally just the draft in the kitchen from the door or whatever, then that's it, and that dies there. But if I go, oh my God, that's the portal that was opened in my house in 1980, like, I feel like it takes away from, my perception of the world.
It takes away from your reality.
Yeah, and it kind of creates something that might not necessarily be there, and it's like an energy suck. It kind of just takes focus out of you.
And I'm in the same boat as you are. I'm a skeptic when it comes to ghost stories. And yet I have my own personal experience that happened at the Lizzie Borden house on a tour that I was on, which was something that was unexplained and unexplainable.
Yeah.
Was the fact that both my daughter and I saw a person. She talked to him. He nodded. I was there. And sitting no further than you are, we were both standing, and this person was making up a bed. He was in Victorian garb. He was a male, probably maybe 5'10", and he was dressed from the 1890s, and he was making up the bed on the third floor in Bridget Sullivan's room. And when we asked the docent, the person who took us around downstairs, we thought it was interesting that you have housekeeping staff that dresses in period clothes, her remark was, "Oh, you saw him." And then she explained that they did not have any male housekeeping staff, and number two, that they did not dress in Victorian garb.
Oh my God.
Yet there it was. Maybe it was a plant. Maybe he was there.
Yeah.
And maybe he wasn't a ghost. But it was strange. It was a strange event.
I'm sure.
So, where are we going from here?
Well, we have a lot of episodes that are kind of in its infancy right now.
Right.
I got a lead on a really big episode that I can't disclose right now because I don't have any confirmation in it. But it's something that I'm going to try to work towards. But a really big episode. I sent you a picture of.
Yeah, that's really going to be big. It's not only does it have local implications, but it has nationwide implications because the story of this individual it was a nationwide story.
The story of the individual, the two people who wrote the book,
right,
are very well known. So there is a strong possibility that something is going to, materialize in the future. But we got about a year until the book releases. So hopefully we can get something filmed.
Yeah, you said possible release date November of this year.
November, I think it was 26th or 28th, November 20-something.
Right.
Of this year now that we're in 2026.
Yeah, and Happy New Year to all
Happy
of
New
our
Year, everybody. What's going on?
All of our subscribers and would-be subscribers, please.
Yes.
Please. We have an upcoming event, hopefully planned for May, but we need your help. We need 20,000 subscribers. We have 11.1
Okay.
today, and so we need 8.9 thousand more subscribers to make this dream come through.
What's the dream?
Well, it's your dream, not mine. It is involving, first of all, involving a tattoo and involving our favorite girl,
Our homegirl, Lizzie.
homegirl Lizzie Borden.
I got some cool designs here. I said if I get 20K subs by May, not by July, not by June, but by May. If I get 20K by May, I'll get a kick-ass Lizzie Borden tattoo.
Not on your ass.
No.
Oh.
No, I think I'll incorporate the coffee stains in my veins slogan somehow.
Oh,
with
that
Lizzie.
should be good.
Yeah, Lizzie drinking a cup of coffee.
And
Coffee
as I
stains in my
said,
veins. It'd be kind of cool.
I'll pay and I'll be there.
Yes, you will.
Because you said we're going to live stream
I'll
this
live stream.
event.
I'll live stream the whole thing. I don't care.
This should be good.
Tattoos take forever, but
Wasn't that the name of a song by Johnny Cash?
I have no idea.
I don't think so.
Maybe.
I digress. Sorry.
But yeah, no. So that's coming up. Hope maybe, possibly. It's up to you guys.
We have a thing that we're going to start working on next week on the 5th. When I get back to school, we talked several times, and several of our people who have commented have talked about the Missy Villisca case down in Texas.
Yep.
And as we talked before, I have a psychologist that is going to look at the evidence in security tape, and we're going to get somebody, an outside person who has never seen this tape, just to get their opinion of what they see.
We're gonna analyze it.
Yeah, and that should be interesting.
Behavioral psychologist of some
Right.
sorts to analyze it. I think that's a great avenue because that case has had many media, has a lot of media coverage, but no one's taken the psychologist point,
No.
which I find interesting. So we're going to do that. We'll be the first to do that.
I'm going to be at the Friends of the Rockland Library event on the 21st of this month. Seemed we talked about that, and it was like, oh, it's 3 months from now, but now it's this month on the 21st. I'll be speaking there, and it'll be on the Lizzie Borden case.
I'll be there.
And that should be interesting, and possibly we'll get some subscribers out of that crowd. We'll shake them down for being a subscriber, and that
Is there an admission fee?
there is not.
So it's free.
It's free.
So if you guys want to see Rich Little live
in person.
live in person, I'll be there. You guys can hang out
I'll
with
be
us.
signing books.
If you guys want to come by, send me an email. All my contact or DM, whatever it be, all the contact info is in my bio or in the description below. Send me a contact. I'll send you where to go and stuff like that. Or you can DM or email us through the website. All that stuff goes directly to my email. And I'm a phone addict, so I will get back to you within a couple of minutes.
And there will be a flyer out on that, and we'll post that flyer
Yep.
on our site when that comes out. I was in contact with the person this weekend, and she said that the flyer will be coming out soon, and we'll put a copy on when we do our next podcast.
Very cool.
So here we are in 19. Oh no, it's not. Time passes so fast when you're having fun. In 2026, and here we are. We're very, very thankful for all of you people who watch week after week and give us such great ideas. So keep those comments coming to us, because that's what drives this show.
So I think for the upcoming episodes, if everything works out just right, we're going to be doing the Missy Bevers case. I know we've had a lot of interest on that case as well. And then after that, we've been talking a little bit about doing Zodiac. That one's a really big case. It's complicated, so that might be a multi-part case, similar to how the Lizzie episode was, because there's the the cryptic messages and all that stuff. So all that we'll have to analyze, and that's a whole. It's kind of like Jack the Ripper. Like it'll be like in episodes and chunks because there's so much detail.
So it should be a fun year. I hope it's as fun as the last one.
2025 was like, I was on my live stream the other night, and one of the questions came up, and it was like 2 words to say, how your year went. You can't say dumpster fire, and I'm like, I can't actually say that 2025 was a bad year. I think 2025 was like the best year I've ever had from start to finish. Like everything I looked for in accomplishing in 2025 happened. And I was so psyched. In 2026, I can't wait. It was funny. I was talking to a friend of mine about the DB Cooper conference that just got released in 2026. It's November 13th through November 15th. All the DB Cooper fans will know that that's something that I want to go to. And as of right now, I am planning on going to it. But I said, I'm like, watch, we're going to have 50K by then. We're going to have 50K by the DB Cooper conference. Maybe.
Let's see that. Out. And if you had asked me about 2025, if you had asked me a year ago today, what do you think you're going to be doing in a year? I probably wouldn't have even mentioned the word podcast.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been in my top 50 words to say because I hardly knew what a podcast was. I was curious about a podcast, but it was beyond me technology-wise on how to do it. And you and I met at where we work at the same school, not at Home Depot and not a Comfort Inn.
Nope.
No, we work at the same public school. And you asked me to do an interview about my Lizzie Borden book. And we did that, and little did we know, within days, within weeks, within months, this thing just blossomed into a phenomena where it wasn't about me and it wasn't about you. It was about her.
Yeah, it was about the people that we talk about.
Right.
It kind of brings me a little bit into, like beforehand, I never really had like a mission statement for the podcast, or like what does the podcast offer? What is the goal of the show? And for me, and it might be different for you, but for me, the podcast is learn more every single week. I didn't know anything about Villisca. I didn't know anything about H.H. Holmes. I knew a little bit about Cooper. I didn't know anything about Gardner or Lizzie or Black Dahlia. I didn't know anything about these cases. But in the past year, I've acquired so much more knowledge based off the podcast, based off the research that we have to do. So that to me is what keeps me going. It's just documenting the journey of learning.
Well, I knew a lot about Lizzie and nothing about a lot of those other cases.
Yeah.
I was interested in the Karen Reed case because it received so much press. And we did two podcasts on Karen Reed. And then as it evolved in the same courthouse, the Walsh case.
Yeah.
And for those of you who didn't see it, on New Year's Day, we presented a podcast about Anna Walsh, who is still missing. So if you happen to miss that, there's 2 podcasts on the Walsh case, one on the trial and sentencing of Brian Walsh, and then one on the disappearance of Anna Walsh. And so if you haven't seen those, the one that we did was moving on talking about Anna Walsh and what a successful person she was, who came to this country as an immigrant, looking for the American dream, and was well on her way to that. And now all of that has been destroyed, and she'll probably always be missing. So if you haven't seen that, check that one out.
Yeah, that was a hard episode.
Right, it was.
I'm happy we had the opportunity to put something out there. But yeah, this has been the podcast. If you guys liked it, share, subscribe, like, comment. We're always in the comments.
Right.
We're always chatting it up. Check out the website. Follow me on Instagram. All that stuff. And reach out to us. You know, I said I'm a phone addict. And if I get an email, I'm immediately on it. And I'll forward it to Rich if you guys want to talk to him. It'd be a great time. And check out Rich's live show he's doing in Rockland. It'll be a good time. If you guys are local, you want to hang out with him, you want to hang out with me, we'll be there.
It's at the Rockland Public Library.
Yep. And
at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, Rockland Public Library.
21st of January.
Okay. And if you guys want formal flyers, just send me an email or a DM and I'll get them to you.
And again, thank you very much, everybody.
With that, like, share, subscribe. Thank you to everybody, and we'll see you.
Have a good one.
Peace out.